I want to make a comment, and I'm not going to get into this as in depth as I will in the coming days, but I just want to say a few things about something that's going on, that has been going on in the town of Kearny over the last couple of months. Many of you know Juan Barroso, who is a firefighter in the town of Kearny, a longtime firefighter. He was also the chief inspector of the Kearny Fire Department, and recently he was suspended and he was demoted back from being the chief fire inspector into a rank-and-file firefighter over some of the most absolutely absurd, asinine, and ridiculous things I have ever seen in my entire 30-year career as a journalist. And many of those years have been spent here at the Observer and here covering the town of Kearny, including the fire department. I still have more research to do before I can speak freely about what I completely know. But what I can say right now, without equivocation and without having to fear being sued for saying anything libelous, is that what happened to him was a travesty, a complete and utter injustice. This is a man who has dedicated his life to the Kearny Fire Department. This is a man who has dedicated his life to being of service of others. And it is not inaccurate to say that in the years that he has been a member of the Kearny Fire Department, Juan Barroso has raised $250,000 in cash for charities. That includes Camp Fatima. It includes many other things that he has raised funds for over the years. And what I am told is that he was suspended because he used a town photocopier to make copies with paper that he purchased on his own, and because he took an online course, which is required for continuing education for members of the civil service, while he was in the office at Kearny Fire Headquarters. Now, the reason these trumped-up charges were made was because apparently the course that he was taking was for his second job as a special police officer in the township of Fairfield. I'll just say this before I go any further. And again, I've made it very clear I still have to do some more research before I can speak further about this. It's utter nonsense. It is just utter nonsense, because if you know anything about people, it is that they make photocopies all the time when they are at work for non-work purposes. And I would bet that by doing this, they have opened up a can of worms that will be impossible to close, because I would put my life on this, that Juan Barroso is not the first person in the history of the Kearny Fire Department or any civil service organization to have used town time to take a continuing education course. By the way, the course, I believe, was on sexual harassment or diversity, was one or the other. Either of those two topics would have been applicable to his work as a police officer and as a firefighter. And the course was on in the background. It wasn't like he stopped and he was looking at the screen and stopped the work he was doing. He was doing his paperwork while this course was being played in the background. Everybody does it that way. I've had to take courses online, and I have always had it on in the background while I was doing other work. He was demoted. He takes a big pay cut, and nobody spoke up for him. Nobody spoke up for him. And there are people who are running for office who will face the consequences of not speaking up for him in the next year. I will never understand it. I will never, ever understand it for as long as I live. This guy has put his life out there in service to others. And what has happened to him over the last couple of months is as despicable as anything I have ever seen in my life. I can't believe it that this has happened to Juan, that he was demoted. He was a phenomenal chief fire inspector. He did everything that was asked of him and then some. And he never asked for praise. He never asked for anything in return. And this is the thanks he gets. What I don't know is who is ultimately responsible for this having happened. But I will find out. I will find out. And I can assure you right now that whoever the responsible parties are shouldn't be able to look at themselves in the mirror today. They shouldn't, because this is a guy, and I know there are two sides to every story. I understand it. I understand that fully. But what I can say in this case is I know that Juan Barroso did not do something that rises to the equivalency of a suspension for as long as it was and a demotion to rank and file from a chief fire inspector in the town of Kearny. Nothing anybody tells me will ever let me believe that the punishment matched the offense. And yet that's what happened. And that's why on Friday, if you look at the screen right now, you see Boatyard Blaze. The Raps Boatyard caught fire Friday morning. And I was down there at the fire scene. I was fortunate to be able to get close enough. And I saw the aforementioned Ed McCune, who's in the chat room. And I saw Juan there in his firefighter turnout gear. One of the most foreign-looking things I've ever seen, because this is not usually when he's at a fire scene. He's usually at the scene when it's over to do the investigation. And he was there, as all the other guys and gals were too, in oppressive heat, fighting a pesky fire too. And he was there doing what he's paid to do, doing it right, doing it well. And that was the thanks that he got for 20 plus years of service to the town of Kearny. A kick in the face and a demotion. There isn't a soul who believes this was done the right way. It was handled abhorrently, as badly as anything I've ever seen in my career. And I just hope that the people who are responsible for this, and they know who they are, I don't necessarily know who they are, but they know who they are. I hope they can give themselves a good pat on the back and say, job well done, to themselves. And if they can, then perhaps they're more psychopaths than anybody could have ever imagined, because what they did was disgusting, disgraceful, and incomprehensible. Did Juan Barroso so much better than this. And the people of the town of Kearny need to know this happened to him. And the reason I'm speaking about it right now is because I'm that confident that nothing anybody says will ever convince me that he deserved the punishment for what he did. Nothing. And I believe him so much so that I can say here unequivocally again that I believe he told me the whole story, and that there isn't or aren't any details that were left out. And if he did, shame on him. And shame on me too for believing it. But I believe in my heart of hearts that he was wronged, perhaps as poorly as anybody has ever been wronged in the town of Kearny. And don't you dare think that there are not other civil servants in this town who have not done worse and who have gotten away with it. I can think of many of them off the top of my head. I'm not going to go there, though. But those people who are out there who are in the know this is the truth, that there are other civil servants who have done far more egregious things and have gotten a slap on the wrist. I hope it never happens to anybody again. If I were a civil servant, a firefighter, a police officer, a member of the EMT service, whatever it is, I wouldn't want to work for the town right now, because I would be afraid that all I would have to do was stub my toe and somebody would be able to say, hey, you did that on town time. You're going to lose $30,000 a year and you're going to get demoted or you're going to get fired. Because that's what happened to him. And it should not have happened. There'll be more to say. in the coming weeks once I get more information and when I get more details. But that's where it stands right now, and I have never, in 49 and one half years on this earth, been more disgusted by something I've seen in my life. And that nobody in that governing body stood up and said, we got to stop this, is nauseating beyond words. And it should never have happened this way.